Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Business Economics ECO 400 के lecture number 16 में खुश आमदीद. So as we are already doing, we review the first part. In the first part of the lecture, we review the previous lecture, what we learned in the last class, और उसके बाद आज के lecture की बात करेंगे in detail. So what we have learned in the previous class. Briefly, we talked about the financial system, and financial system is made up of financial institutions in the economy such as bond market, stock market, banks and mutual funds. तो हमने दो तरह के financial institution की बात की थी, that one was the financial market, जिसमें हमने दो markets की बात की, bond market की बात की और स्टॉक मार्केट की बात की. उसके बाद हमने फाइनेंशियल इंटरमीडिएट्स की बात की और उसमें हमने बैंक्स की बात की और म्यूचुअल फंड्स की बात की. ऑल दीज फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस एक्ट टू डायरेक्ट द रिसोर्सेज ऑफ द हाउस होल्ड हु वांट टू सेव सम ऑफ देयर इनकम एंड इनटू द हैंड्स ऑफ हाउस होल्ड एंड फर्म्स हु वांट टू बारो. राइट. तो इन जो जितने भी फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन हैं, बेसिकली दे डायरेक्ट द रिसोर्सेज ऑफ दोज पर्सन्स, इंडिविजुअल्स, हाउस होल्ड हु वांट टू सेव सम पार्ट ऑफ देयर इनकम एंड वांट टू प्रोवाइड दिस एज ए लोन और लेंड दैट सेविंग टू द borrowers. National income accounting identity reveals some important relationships. हमने कहा कि कुछ important relationship हमने drive किए from national income identity. अब वो national income identity क्या जो हमने last class में पढ़ी थी, that was y is equal to c plus i plus g plus nx. तो वहाँ से हम एक important relationship हमने draw किया which was between saving and investment. We said that in economy as a whole saving is equal to investment. उसके बाद हमने बात की financial institution attempt to match one person's saving with another person's investment. And then we said that the interest rate is determined by the supply and demand for loanable funds. तो हमने loanable funds market की बात की. हमने ये कहा कि ये ऐसी मार्केट है जो कि दूसरी मार्केट की तरह काम करती है. जैसे कि हमने कहा गुड्स मार्केट होती है, फैक्टर्स मार्केट होती है, जहाँ पे डिमांड और सप्लाई इंटरेक्ट करती हैं एंड देन दे डिटरमिन प्राइसेस ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज, प्राइसेस ऑफ फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन इन द फॉर्म ऑफ वेजेस एंड इंटरेस्ट रेट. तो उसी तरह डिमांड फॉर लोनेबल फंड्स भी काम करती है. एक तरफ सप्लाई ऑफ लोनेबल फंड्स हैं, दूसरी तरफ डिमांड फॉर लोनेबल फंड्स हैं. तो दोनों फोर्सेस इंटरेक्ट करती हैं and determine the interest rate in the economy. The supply of loanable funds came from the household who save money from their income, and the demand for loanable comes from the household or the firms or the individuals who would borrow money for the investment purposes. Now, national saving always equal to private saving plus public saving. Now, how the government can affect the supply of loanable funds or the demand of loanable funds by introducing different policies. तो तीन policies की हमने बात की. हमने ये कहा कि government can provide incentive to save money in the economy by introducing different tax laws, right? And then in that case the government, when the government provide incentive, supply for loans बढ़ जाती है, supply का rightward shift होता है, interest rate कम होता है और demand for loanable funds increase हो जाती है और investment मुल्क में बढ़ जाती है. दूसरा हमने कहा कि government provide incentive, and when they provide incentive in the form of tax laws, by introducing tax laws, it promotes increase interest rate बढ़ता है, saving बढ़ती है और इकोनॉमी में बेहतरी आती है. उसके बाद हमने बात की गवर्नमेंट कैन आल्सो अफेक्ट द सप्लाई एंड डिमांड ऑफ लोनेबल फंड्स बाय टैक्स बजट डेफिसिट और बजट सरप्लस. तो जब बजट डेफिसिट होता है तो हमने ये कहा सप्लाई ऑफ लोनेबल फंड्स कम हो जाती है और सप्लाई का लेफ्टवर्ड शिफ्ट हो जाता है, this affect the interest rate goes up and investment goes down. दूसरा हमने ये कहा बजट सरप्लस होता है समटाइम इकोनॉमी में. जब बजट सरप्लस होता है तो व्हाट विल हैपन टू द सप्लाई ऑफ लोनेबल फंड्स. सप्लाई ऑफ लोनेबल फंड्स जो है बढ़ जाती है. जब सप्लाई ऑफ लोनेबल फंड्स बढ़ती है तो सप्लाई कर्व विल शिफ्ट राइटवर्ड. तो जब राइटवर्ड शिफ्ट होती है दिस इंटरसेक्ट द डिमांड कर्व एट ए पॉइंट विच इज एट द लोअर इंटरेस्ट रेट and higher quantity supply and demand of loanable funds, right? So when interest rate is lower, as we know that this promote investment in the economy, right? So this is how government can affect the supply and demand of loanable funds. So this was all about the previous lecture. So we'll start our today's lecture. So what we are going to learn, क्या आज हम सीखना चाहते हैं. तो हम बात करेंगे आज के लेक्चर में about production and growth की. How we can relate productivity, production of goods and services with the growth of the economy. So this is the topic of discussion in today's lecture. अब किस तरह हम proceed करेंगे आज के लेक्चर में, we'll see the lecture outline. अब लेक्चर आउटलाइन में हमने देखें सबसे पहले तो हम क्या सीखना चाह रहे हैं. वी वांट टू लर्न अबाउट इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. वी वांट टू टॉक अबाउट द इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ इन द वर्ल्ड. एंड देन सेकेंडली विल टॉक अबाउट प्रोडक्टिविटी, इट्स रोल एंड डिटरमिनेंट. विल सी दैट हाउ प्रोडक्टिविटी इज डिटरमिन्ड एंड व्हाट इज इट्स रोल इन द ग्रोथ ऑफ एन इकोनॉमी. एंड थर्ड पार्ट ऑफ टूडेज लेक्चर हम बात करेंगे प्रोडक्शन फंक्शन की. कौन से फैक्टर्स हैं कि जो कि हेल्प करते हैं, जो कि यूज़ किए जाते हैं एज ए इनपुट टू प्रोड्यूस गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इन द इकोनॉमी. एंड लास्टली we'll talk about economic growth and public policy, how the government policy or the public policy can affect the economic growth in an economy. So this is the outline of today's lecture. तो सबसे पहले हम बात करेंगे economic growth around the world. So we'll start from the first part of our today's lecture. A country's standard of living depends on its ability to produce goods and services, right? तो अगर हम मुख्तलिफ कंट्रीज का स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग कंपेयर करना चाहते हैं तो we must see it because it depends on the ability of that country to produce goods and services. So we compare how much is the ability of a country to produce goods and services. जिन ममालिक में जो ममालिक ज़्यादा एबिलिटीज़ रखते हैं, जहाँ पर रिसोर्सेज ज़्यादा होते हैं इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ह्यूमन कैपिटल, फिजिकल कैपिटल, लेबर एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में एडवांस होते हैं, दे प्रोड्यूस मोर गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इन द इकानमी. तो हम कह सकते हैं जो ममालिक, जो कंट्रीज़ ज़्यादा अशिया को प्रोड्यूस करते हैं, ज़्यादा सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करते हैं, उन ममालिक में स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग जो है लोगों का बेहतर होता है, अच्छा होता है. सो विद इन द कंट्री देयर आर लार्ज चेंजेस इन स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग ओवर टाइम. तो जब आप कंट्री के अंदर बात करते हैं तो मुख्तलिफ टाइम पीरियड्स में स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग में बड़ी वेरिएशंस आती हैं. एंड दैट वेरिएशन इज ड्यू टू द वेरिएशन आर चेंजेस ड्यू इन द इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ आर द ग्रोथ ऑफ ग्रॉस डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट आर ग्रोथ ऑफ पर कैपिटा इनकम. तो एक मुल्क के अंदर जब स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग की हम बात करते हैं तो हम बात करते हैं कि उस मुल्क के स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग में या सोसाइटी की वेलफेयर में ओवर द टाइम पीरियड बहुत तब्दीली आती है. कभी इनकम बढ़ जाती है तो स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग अच्छा हो जाता है, कभी इनकम इकोनॉमी में कम हो जाती है, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग कम हो जाता है, राइट. सो in the United States over the past century, average income is measured by real GDP per person has grown by 2% per year. तो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स की एग्जांपल यहाँ पे ली गई है, बात की गई है कि वहाँ पे जीडीपी पर कैपिटा जो है विच इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट पैरामीटर टू रेज द स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग इन एन इकोनॉमी, तो उसकी बात की गई है. और वहाँ पे जो एवरेज ग्रोथ रेट है पर कैपिटा इनकम का इट इज़ 2% पर एनम. सो ग्रोथ और प्रोडक्टिविटी को जब आप ओवरऑल द वर्ल्ड की बात करते हैं, सो इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ plays very important role to raise the standard of living of the people. Those countries whose GDP is growing fastly, is high, as compared to the other countries. Their standard, they provide more facilities, they spend more on development projects for the welfare of the society, and then standard of living of the individuals or the household will go up. And those countries where growth is not accelerating, growth कम हो रही है GDP में और पर कैपिटा इनकम में, वहाँ पे स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग उतना अच्छा नहीं होता, डिटेरिएट करता है और पॉवर्टी बढ़ती जाती। तो यहाँ पे आप जब स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग ओवर द वर्ल्ड की बात करते हैं आप, या ग्रोथ, इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ की ओवर द वर्ल्ड बात करते हैं आप, तो यहाँ पे आप कंपेयर कर सकते हैं। यू कैन डिवाइड द वर्ल्ड इनटू डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज, लाइक वी हैव डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज, technological advanced countries, and we have developing countries, right? We have less developed countries, least developed countries, जिसे हम कह सकते हैं। So there are different categories of the world, right? So developed countries are enjoying all benefits of life, and they have higher growth rate is higher, per capita income is higher, they are advanced in technology, they use modern methods of production, right? So they produce more goods and services. This raise up the standard of living of the people. But the less developed countries, and they are still struggling, and they're fighting with the poverty, they're fighting with the unemployment, and they're fighting with the budget deficits and so on. So when we talk about growth rate or growth in the economy around the globe, so we have to divide the countries into different categories in the form of developed and developing countries. Now productivity की जब हम बात करते हैं, तो productivity refers to the amount of goods and services produced for each hour of a worker's time. तो हर एक बंदा इकोनॉमी में एक घंटे के अंदर कितनी उसकी कंट्रीब्यूशन है, how much he or she produced in a particular time, which is 1 hour, a specific amount of goods and services, that is known as the productivity. A nation's standard of living always depends on or determined by the productivity of the workers, right? So अगर हम किसी कौम के उसके स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग की बात करते हैं, तो उसका जो स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग है, that depends on its workers productivity. कितने प्रोडक्टिव हैं उस मुल्क के जो लोग हैं, क्या वो मेहनती हैं, स्किल्ड हैं, trained हैं, educated हैं, how much they contribute in the production process, right? So that determines the standard of living of the people of that particular country. Now living standards as measured by real GDP per person vary significantly among nations. So मुख्तलिफ ममालिक के दरमियान, जैसा कि हमने कहा कि जो standard of living है depends on real GDP per person, so this varies significantly among different nations. जैसा कि मैंने अभी आपको बताया, why it varies significantly among nations, because there are different categories of the countries. There are developed countries, less developed countries, and developing countries. So the poorest countries has average levels of income that have not been in the United States for many years, are not other developed countries like UK, Europe, and Japan, and so on. Annual growth rates that seem small become large when compounded for many years. So when you compound the average growth rates, and that seems small become large when you compound it for many years. Now compounding refers to the accumulation of a growth rate over a period of time. So मुख्तलिफ सालों में जब आप एक average growth rate को compound करते हैं, right? So that is basically, compounding is the accumulation of growth rate over a time, over a period of time. बहुत से सालों पे growth rate को जब आप accumulate कर लेते हैं, तो that is the compounding of growth rate. Now productivity, its role and determinants. So what is productivity, what is its role, and what are the factors that can determine the productivity in the economy? Productivity plays an important role in determining living standard of living for all nations in the world. So productivity whether it is developed country, whether it is developing country, जो भी मुल्क है, चाहे developed है, less developed है, तो जितनी भी अक़वाम हैं, पूरे मुल्क, पूरी दुनिया की जितने भी नेशंस हैं, सब के जो स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग है डिपेंड करता है उसकी प्रोडक्टिविटी पे. सो प्रोडक्टिविटी बड़ा अहम रोल प्ले करती है इन डिटर्मिनिंग द स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग ऑफ all nations around the globe. Productivity refers, as we already said, that it is the amount produced of goods and services by workers in a particular time period. Now, to understand why there are large differences in living standard across the country, we must focus on production of goods and services. अगर हम समझना चाहते हैं, अगर हम जानना चाहते हैं कि मुख्तलिफ ममालिक के दरमियान स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग में क्यों फ़र्क है, why is the difference between in education facilities, why is the difference in health facilities, why is the difference in communication facilities, why is the difference in the development expenditure and non-development expenditure. So we need to compare the production of goods and services across the countries, right? So what is the level, how much goods and services are produced across the countries are in different countries. So the inputs used to produce goods and services are called, जब हम प्रोडक्टिविटी की बात करते हैं, goods and services की प्रोडक्शन की बात करते हैं, तो हमारे ज़हन में आता है कि what are the factors which are used to produce those goods and services. So those inputs that are used to produce goods and services in an economy, in a country, are called फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन. तो जो चीज़ें, जो इनपुट्स यूज़ होती हैं उन अशिया को प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए, उनको हम फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन का नाम देते हैं. एंड वी कैन से दैट जो फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन हैं, दैट डिटरमिन्स directly determines the productivity of a country or in the economy. Now, since factors of production are very important, these are the inputs that are used to produce goods and services in the economy. So there are 4 factors of production normally which are used to produce certain products, right? Number 1 is the physical capital, right? So we'll talk about all these factors one by one in detail in the coming slides. तो आगे अभी हम बात करने वाले हैं, इन डिटेल में इनकी बात करेंगे. अभी जस्ट आई वांट टू लिस्ट आउट व्हाट आर द फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन व्हिच आर यूज्ड. तो इस स्लाइड में जस्ट वी आर गोइंग टू लिस्ट दोज फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, और अगली स्लाइड्स में हम इनकी डिटेल में बात करेंगे कि व्हाट वी मीन बाय फिजिकल कैपिटल, व्हाट वी मीन बाय ह्यूमन कैपिटल, व्हाट वी मीन बाय नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज एंड टेक्नोलॉजिकल नॉलेज. सो दीज आर द 4 factors of production, that is physical capital, human capital, natural resources and technological knowledge. These are the 4 factors of production which are used in the production process to produce goods and services in an economy. Now, as we said that the first factor of production and very important factor of production is the physical capital. Now it is the produced factor of production. It is one of the factor which is produced, which is the output at some stage in the production process. It is an input into the production process that in the past was an output from the production process. तो ये जो physical capital है, किसी एक स्टेज पे एक प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस का में it was an output, but that output now is being used currently as an input for the production of other goods and services. It is known as the stock of equipment and structures that are used to produce goods and services. Now, for example, if we talk about tools that are used to build or repair automobiles, is the physical capital. Tools that are used to build furniture are called physical capital. The tools in the offices, buildings, schools, etc. So all these are the example of physical capital. Now physical capital is very, very important and fundamental factor of production. So we cannot produce any product or service, provide any service in the economy without using physical capital, right? So हमने जैसे कि इसको define किया, it is stock of equipment and structures that are used to produce goods and services. तो हमने ये भी कहा कि in the past and that physical factor was output in the production process, which is currently used as an input in the production of goods and services. So this is what we can say that what we mean by physical capital. तो जितने भी टूल्स, मशीनरी, इक्विपमेंट, बिल्डिंग यूज़ होते हैं प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस में, चीज़ों को प्रोड्यूस करने में, ये सारे के सारे को हम फिज़िकल कैपिटल का नाम देते हैं। दूसरा जो फैक्टर प्रोडक्शन की हमने बात की, ह्यूमन कैपिटल की। ह्यूमन कैपिटल इज़ ए वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन। हाउ वी कैन डिफाइन ह्यूमन कैपिटल? ह्यूमन कैपिटल इज़ द इन्वेस्टमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ एजुकेशन, इन्वेस्टमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ट्रेनिंग, investment in the form of training, migration, and so on, right? So like physical capital, human capital raise a national ability to produce goods and services. अगर किसी मुल्क में skilled लोग हैं, trained लोग हैं, educated लोग हैं, right, so they can contribute more in the productivity of a nation economy, right? They can produce, they can help in the production, तो उनकी productivity बेहतर होती है as compared to the so here यहाँ पे मैं बात करूँगा endogenous growth theories की। तो उससे पहले ह्यूमन कैपिटल को इतना important factor of production नहीं लिया जाता था। The main factors of production were capital and labor, but इन द न्यू इंडोजिनस ग्रोथ थ्योरी जब आए 60s में, तो वहाँ ये कहा गया कि ह्यूमन कैपिटल जो है इज़ ए वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन दैट हेल्प्स टू इंक्रीज द प्रोडक्ट वर्कर्स एबिलिटी to produce goods and services in the economy. तो ह्यूमन कैपिटल, जितने लोग ज़्यादा ट्रेंड होते हैं, एजुकेशन उनकी अच्छी होती है, हेल्दी होते हैं, दे वर्क मोर, दे वर्क हार्ड, दे प्रोड्यूस मोर, दे कैन अंडरस्टैंड द न्यू इक्विपमेंट, न्यू मशीनरी, न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी, दे सो if we use the trained and skilled manpower in the production process, this will help to raise productivity and output in the economy. So this is the second factor of production, which is human capital, which is an important contributor to the growth of an economy. Now we'll talk about the third factor of production, which is natural resources. Now natural resources are the inputs used in the production that are provided by nature, such as land, rivers, minerals, deposits. So all these resources are the natural resources which are used in the production process, and these factors, these resources are provided by the nature. As we can talk about renewable resources, includes trees and forests, and non-renewable resources like include petroleum and coals. All these are the example of natural resources. Natural resources can be important in the production process, but not necessary for an economy to be highly productive in producing goods and services. ये इस्तेमाल होते हैं, इनको हम कह सकते हैं कि इनकी अहमियत है प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस में नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज की, लेकिन ये इतने ज़्यादा ज़रूरी नहीं होते फॉर एन इकानमी टू बी ए हाईली प्रोडक्टिव. तो अगर किसी मुल्क में ऐसे ममालिक जहाँ पे इतने ज़्यादा नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, और आप देखें फॉर एग्जांपल इफ़ वी टॉक अबाउट सिंगापुर, इफ़ वी टॉक अबाउट कोरिया, इफ़ वी टॉक अबाउट Malaysia, all these countries, they are not rich in natural resources, but they are growing very fast, they are developing very fast, their GDP is very high as compared to the other Asian countries. So natural resource availability of natural resources can play an important role in the production of goods and services, but they are not necessarily necessary for they are not necessary for an economy high productive capacity in producing goods and services. So this is the third factor of production, which is the natural resources. Now we'll talk about the fourth factor of production, which is technological knowledge. So society understanding of the best ways to produce goods and services in the economy. Human capital refers to the resources expended, transmitting this understanding to the labor force. If governments or the economies are heavily investing in developing human capital in the form of training, in the form of education, तो आप कह सकते हैं कि वो जो लोग हैं टेक्नोलॉजी को जो आसानी से समझ सकते हैं और आसानी से उसको इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस में, राइट, so they can use modern methods, modern techniques, तो this will help to raise productivity of the economy. तो टेक्नोलॉजी जो है, अब आप देखें कि जहाँ पे जिस मशीन में पहले 10 लोग काम करते थे, अब टेक्नोलॉजी की एडवांसमेंट से, नई टेक्नोलॉजी से वही मशीन अब 2 लोग चला सकते हैं और चीज़ों को प्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं. So we can say that technology can play also an important role in determining productivity and raising production of goods and services output in the economy. तो हमने ये कहा productivity basically refers to the amount of goods and services produced by a worker in a specific time period, right, the capacity of the workers. हमने ये कहा there are 4 factors of production, there are 4 determinants of productivity की हमने बात की. हमने ये कहा कि one of the important factor of production is physical capital. Physical capital में हमने ये कहा कि it is the factor form of equipment, structures, which is very important to produce a certain product. उसके बाद human capital की बात की, that is the investment in the form of education, training, migration, health and so on. If we have trained labor, skilled labor, so they can be more productive. उसके बाद हमने natural resource की बात की और हमने ये कहा कि each country has a bundle of natural resources. Natural resources can play an important role in production of goods and services, but they are not necessary for high productivity of an economy. And उसके बाद हमने technology की बात की कि technology can be another factor of production. So if people are educated, trained, skilled, so they can use new techniques, modern method of production, advanced technology in the production of goods and services, तो production बढ़ती है, प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ेगी, ग्रोथ होगी और स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग जो है लोगों का बेहतर होगा. Now economists often use production function to describe the relationship between quantity of output and the quantity of inputs used in the production process. So we can write the production function, जैसे कि आपको सामने नजर आ रहा है स्लाइड पे, कि we can write the production function as follows. Y is equal to A is a function of capital, labor, H and N, natural resources. So where Y is the quantity of output produced in the country, in the economy, A is the level of technology used in the production process, L is the labor, H is the human capital and N is the natural resources, and F is used as a functional form that shows how the inputs are used or combined to produce goods and services. Now it depends on the economy how much or what mix of these factors of production are used to produce goods and services. तो यहाँ पे हम देखते हैं कि it depends if the country is labor abundant, यहाँ पे labor ज़्यादा है, and deficient in capital, they use more labor intensive techniques in the production process. Labor intensive techniques means या वहाँ पे ज़्यादा labor यूज़ की जाती है और कम capital यूज़ किया जाता है चीज़ों को produce करने के लिए. और ऐसे ममालिक, ऐसे countries जहाँ पे कैपिटल अबंडेंट होता है और लेस लेबर होती है, they use capital intensive techniques, they use those modes of production, they use those method of production to produce goods and services where more physical capital is required, where more advanced technology is required, right? So it depends on the country's available factors of production. So how or what mix of the different factors of production is used to produce an efficient level of output in the economy. Now the production function has constant return to scale if for any positive number, if we increase all inputs by a positive number, and if output will also increase by the same positive number, so then we can say that there are constant return to scale. Suppose a doubling of all inputs causes the amount of output produced to be doubled, right, as well. So if this is the situation, we can say that there are constant return to scale. If the increase in output is more than the increase in inputs, then we can say that there are increasing return to scale. Suppose if inputs are increased by 5% and output increased by more than 5%, let us say by 10%, 15%, 20%, so in that case there are increasing return to scale in the economy. अगर हम ये कहते हैं कि अगर आउटपुट में जो इजाफा है, प्रोडक्शन में जो इजाफा है, वो इनपुट में इजाफे से ज़्यादा होगा, तो हम ये कहते हैं कि there are increasing return to scale, and there will be a decreasing return to scale when the increase in output is less than the increase in input. Agar suppose if we increase inputs by 5% in the production process, and if the output increase or the change in output is less than 5%, let us 4% or 3.5%, तो हम ये कह सकते हैं there are decreasing return to scale in the economy. Production function with constant return to scale have an interesting implication. Suppose x is equal to 1 over L. If we divide, if we are interested, or if the country is interested to find productivity per worker, because we want to find how each and every worker is contributing in the productivity of an economy, so we have to calculate productivity per worker. So if we divide this equation, this functional form, this model, by L on both sides, so we'll get y is equal to L, A F1 K over L, H over L, N over L. So we can say that where y is the output per worker, K over L is the physical capital per worker, H over L is the human capital per worker, and N over L is the natural resources per worker. So the preceding equation says that, the above equation says that, जो equation हमने अभी draw की, say that the output per worker or the productivity per worker is depending on the physical capital per worker, human capital per worker, and natural resources per worker, as well as the state of technology or the level of technology available in the economy. Now we'll come to the next part of the lecture, how we can relate economic growth and public policy, the policy of the government and the economic growth in the economy. The government can do many things, how the government can increase or promote growth in the economy. So the government can adopt different ways, different policies to promote economic growth in the economy. So government can do many things to raise productivity in the countries, and as well as, so when the productivity will rise, the standard of living will also rise. So government policy that raise productivity and living standards could be like, number one, government can encourage saving and investment in the country, right? So government can adopt policies which promote saving and investment, as we have talked about in the previous lecture, that if the government provides incentive to save money in the economy, this will help to lower the interest rate and increase the investment in the economy. And we have also discussed in the last lecture, if government provide incentive to invest, to more invest in the economy, so then it will raise the interest rate and decrease the investment level in the increase the saving and raise the standard of living of the people in the country. So government can adopt different policies and provide incentive to the individual, to the firm, to the household, to promote saving, to increase investment in the economy, and that can promote or increase economic growth. Similarly, government can encourage investment from abroad. So if the government adopt policies, flexible policies, reduce restrictions, and then encourage foreign investors in the country, so this will also help to raise productivity in the economy, and that raise standard of living of the people in the country. Government can also raise productivity, increase productivity and economic growth by providing education and training to the individual, to the households. Moreover, government can also adopt policies about like establish security. And now government can spend, how government can increase, can encourage education and training. If government increase the percentage of education in GDP, or spend more on education at the grassroots level as well as at the higher education level, and similarly if the government reduce training programs and start technical education in the country, promote technical education in the country, spend higher budget on higher money, more income on technical education program, so people will be more skilled, trained, educated, and when they will be more educated, more trained, so their productivity will increase, of course, they will produce more, and the growth of the economy can increase or go up, and standard of living will improve. Government can also adopt policies to establish property rights as well as maintain political stability, right? So government provide incentive, provide protection to protect the right of the properties of the individuals, of the firms, as well as try to bring political stability in the economy. If government is stable politically, of course, it encourages investment, it encourages foreign investment, it encourages savings, right? So there will be more economic activity if the political government is politically stable. So there will be more growth in the economy, growth बढ़ जाएगी. Government can also increase economic growth by promoting free trade, right? So reduce the restriction, try to minimize the restrictions on imports, right? Quotas कम करें, tariffs कम करें, right? Liberalize the economy, right? So there will be you get more capital from by exporting and importing products. Your balance of trade will improve, balance of payment will improve, right? So by promoting free trades in the economy, so you can increase productivity, government can increase economic growth, and standard of living of the people will improve. Now it can also by research or development के ज़रिए भी आप कर सकते हैं. So we'll try to explain all these parameters again in the coming slide in detail. If you look at this slide, to show you what were the growth rate of different countries in different years and investment of different countries in different years. In A diagram अगर आप देखें, it is a growth rate. If you look at the country's growth rate, so we see that South Korea is the highest growth rate in different years, which is almost 7% अगर आप देखें, and the lowest growth rate is for this Rwanda, which is almost 1%. So in the other diagram you can see that tells you the investment made in different countries. You can compare the countries by comparing investment and income, and so this tells us how different countries are behaving, how different countries are growing in terms of growth rate, in terms of investment. Just to give you an idea, इसी तरह के आप ग्राफ you can include Pakistan also and try to ड्रा दिगारा। तो आप एक कोशिश करें कि आप डाटा लें डिफरेंट कंट्रीज़ का, लाइक आप डाटा ले सकते हैं साउथ एशियन कंट्रीज़ का, लाइक 7 ममालिक हैं जो कि साउथ एशिया में शामिल हैं, उनका इन्वेस्टमेंट का डाटा लें, उनका growth rate का डाटा लें for different years and try to draw the chart and then you can compare so what is happening to the growth rate of different South Asian countries and investment level in those countries. तो दिस इज़ जस्ट एन प्रैक्टिस असाइनमेंट फॉर यू। तो आप पाकिस्तान को अगर देखना चाहते हैं, यू कैन कंपेयर पाकिस्तान विद द साउथ एशियन रीजन। तो 7 ममालिक का डाटा लेके आप ग्रोथ का और इन्वेस्टमेंट का यू कैन ड्रॉ दिस टेबल। हेयर वुड लाइक टू इस स्लाइड में मैं आपको एक नया जो कॉन्सेप्ट है कैचअप इफेक्ट और डिमिनिशिंग रिटर्न की हम बात करेंगे एंड ट्राई टू लुक हाउ दिस कैन बी यूजफुल कॉन्सेप्ट फॉर इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ। सो दिस इज अनदर पैरामीटर विच गवर्नमेंट कैन लुक इनटू एंड प्रमोट इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ इन द इकोनॉमी। एज द स्टॉक ऑफ कैपिटल rises, the extra output produced from additional unit of capital falls. This property is called diminishing marginal returns. So as we know that if we use more of a factor of production in the production process, its marginal productivity goes down, right? Each additional unit of a labor or capital in the production process give less output as compared to the previous unit, right? So it means marginal productivity falls as we use more units of a factor of production. So this प्रॉपर्टी को हम कहते हैं डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल रिटर्न्स, जो कि ये बताती है कि अगर आप किसी फैक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन की कैपिटल हो या लेबर हो उसके यूनिट्स बढ़ाते जाते हैं प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस में, तो हर जो एडिशनल यूनिट है उसकी मार्जिनल प्रोडक्टिविटी जो है वो कम होती जाती है एंड इस प्रॉपर्टी को हम नाम देते हैं डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल रिटर्न्स का। नाउ बिकॉज ऑफ diminishing marginal returns, an increase in saving rate leads to higher growth only for a while, right? In the long run, higher saving leads to higher level of productivity and income. तो हम कह सकते हैं कि diminishing marginal returns से अगर हम increase करते हैं saving को leads to higher growth rate only for a while, but in the long run the higher saving rate leads to a higher level of productivity and income but not to higher growth rate in these areas. Now how we can relate this with the concept of catch-up effect? What is catch-up effect? The catch-up effects refer to the property whereby countries that start off poor tend to grow more rapidly than those countries that start off rich. तो कैचअप इफेक्ट एक ऐसा इफेक्ट होता है जो मुख्तलिफ कंट्रीज़ को हम कंपेयर करते हैं कि वो कंट्रीज़ जो कि गरीब होती हैं, पुअर होती हैं एंड स्टार्ट करती हैं बाय रेजिंग देयर प्रोडक्टिविटी, रेजिंग देयर आउटपुट टू रेज द स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग, तो उनकी जो ग्रोथ है is more rapidly ज़्यादा होती है as compared to those countries who are rich and they start growing and they start producing more. तो जो ममालिक अमीर होते हैं पहले से उनकी निस्बत गरीब ममालिक जब अपनी प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ाना चाहते हैं तो उनकी प्रोडक्टिविटी और द ग्रोथ जो है वो कंपैरेटिवली ज़्यादा तेज़ी से बढ़ती है उन ममालिक की निस्बत जो कि अमीर होते हैं और प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ाना चाहते हैं। तो दिस इफेक्ट इज़ नोन एज द कैचअप इफेक्ट। As we said that government can promote or increase economic growth and standard of living by investment from abroad. So government can encourage investment, foreign investment in the country by introducing flexible policies, easy policies, so that investor cannot be discouraged while coming to Pakistan, investing in Pakistan, right? So उनको वेलकम करें, इनकरेज करें और कोई ऐसी पॉलिसी बनाएं जिससे उसको बहुत सारे दफातर में, बहुत सारे ऑफिसेज में ना जाना पड़े एंड ट्राई टू हेल्प देम सो दैट दे विल बी इनकरेज्ड to come and invest in your country and that will raise economic growth and productivity in the economy, and that in turn help to raise the standard of living of the people in the country. Now, investment abroad takes several forms. It could be foreign direct investment, capital invested, owned and operated by a foreign entity. Now, foreign direct investment ऐसी investment होती है कि जो कि capital invest होता है and that is owned and operated by a foreign entity. को foreign firm होती है, उसका अपना capital होता है और वो खुद आके invest करती है, and that sort of investment is known as foreign investment. Foreign portfolio investment, investment financed with foreign currency, foreign money, but operated by a domestic resident, right? तो पैसा बाहर का होता है, बाहर के लोग इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, लेकिन वो जो ऑपरेट कर रहे होते हैं लोकल रेजिडेंट या डोमेस्टिक पीपल ऑपरेट कर रहे होते हैं उसको, दैट इज नोन एज द फॉरेन पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टमेंट. तो बोथ दीज सॉर्ट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट, दैट इज फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट एंड फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट आर द टाइप्स ऑफ foreign investment. So government need to, if they want to promote growth, if they want to raise productivity, अगर हम चाहते हैं कि मुल्क में प्रोडक्शन बढ़े, प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़े और ग्रोथ ज़्यादा हो, तो we should adopt liberal and flexible policies to attract foreign policies, foreign investment, both in the form of foreign direct investment as well as foreign portfolio investment. So this is one of the way or the factor that government can use and promote growth and productivity in the economy and raise standard of living in of the people. Education, as we already said, that education is one of the important factor that can help to promote growth and productivity and standard of living in the country. Now, for a country long run economic growth, education is at least as important as investment in physical capital. So it is as equally important. अगर आप हम long run की बात करते हैं, short run में तो education का कोई impact नज़र नहीं आएगा आपको, because education is a long term investment. तो long term में education की जो investment है is as important as investment in physical capital. So just for an example, in United States, each year of schooling raises a person average wage on average by about 10%. तो एक रिसर्च ने ये साबित किया है कि यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स में each years of schooling raises a person wage on average by 10%. अगर आप हर साल एक एडिशनल ईयर ऑफ स्कूलिंग ऐड करते जाते हैं अपनी क्वालिफिकेशन में, तो दैट रेजेस 10% ऑफ योर वेज ऑन एवरेज इन यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स. सो दिस इज हाउ एजुकेशन कैन कंट्रीब्यूट. जब आपके वेजेस बढ़ती हैं, रिटर्न्स बढ़ते हैं, तो ओवरऑल स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग जो है आपकी पर कैपिटा इनकम बढ़ जाती है और स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग जो है मुल्क में इम्प्रूव हो जाता है. तो दस वन वे द गवर्नमेंट कैन एनहांस स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग is to provide schools and encourage the population to take advantage of them. An educated person might generate new ideas, can innovate, bring innovations, new ideas and about how best to produce goods and services, which in turn might enter society's pool's knowledge, a pool of knowledge, enters into society pool of knowledge and provide an external benefit to others. So educated person can provide new ideas, can bring innovations in the production process, right, which can increase the productivity, and that can also add in the pool of knowledge in the society and provide an external benefit to other members of the societies also. So education is as equally important, investment in education is as equally important as we invest in physical capital. So this is one of the sectors on which government can concentrate, invest and promote growth and productivity and raise the standard of living of the people in the economy. One problem that poor countries are facing is the brain drain. So the immigration of many of the most highly educated workers to the rich countries. So one of the problem which all the developing countries we are facing is कि हमारे जो पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, ट्रेंड लोग हैं, स्किल्ड लोग हैं, दे वांट टू गो टू अदर कंट्रीज, ब्रेन ड्रेन हो रहा है, दे आर मूविंग टू अदर कंट्रीज बिकॉज यहाँ पे उनको अपनी एजुकेशन का, अपनी स्किल का प्रॉपर जो है उजरत है, रिटर्न है, मुआवजा है, वो नहीं मिलता. सो पीपल आर मूविंग, ब्रेन ड्रेन हो रही है इकानमी में इन केस ऑफ डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज. सो अगर आप देखें what is the loss of the countries where our people are moving, because they have invested not a single penny in that particular person who have moved to their country, right? They can take benefit of that. So brain drain is one of the problem that the developing countries are facing. People are moving from developing countries to the developed countries in order to get higher wages, so that if they get higher wages, higher returns, they can raise the standard of living of their families and they can contribute to the society. So this is one of the factor that government can concentrate, can invest in education, and by raising education level in the country, they can raise productivity and they can raise growth and standard of living in the country or in the economy. So as we talked about property rights और हमने political stability की बात की, this could be one of the factor that can basically enhance productivity and growth in the economy and in turn raise the standard of living of the people in the country. So property rights refers to the ability of the people to exercise authority over the resources they own. So government should give rights to the people in the country so that they can exercise those rights to use their resources as they want in the production process. Similarly, if the country is political stability hai, democracy hai, so governments are working properly, there is no interference, so that provide a kind of relief to the investors, to the people of the country, so that they concentrate on their production. In this way they can raise productivity और growth बढ़ती है. जब growth बढ़ती है तो standard of living automatically बढ़ जाता है. उसके बाद हमने बात की free trade की. Free trade is one of the factor that can contribute towards trade. So government has to introduce policies with the minimum trade restrictions, right? हमें tariffs कम करने चाहिए, quotas कम करने चाहिए, so that people, our individuals, our society, our household can freely trade between the countries, within the countries. In this case, in this way, you can raise, or the countries can raise productivity. Productivity बढ़ा सकते हैं. जब productivity बढ़ती है तो economic growth बढ़ जाएगी उस मुल्क में. जब economic growth बढ़ेगी तो क्या होगा? Standard of living लोगों का बेहतर हो जाएगा. So some countries engage in inward oriented trade policies, avoiding interaction with other countries. So that is not good. So inward oriented trade strategies are not good for the economies to expand, to grow, right? So because in this case they are avoiding to make interaction with other countries. Outward oriented trade strategies or policies are that encourage interaction with the other countries, right? So government should adopt outward oriented trade strategies or policies which encourage people to trade with other countries. Now this is one of the important factors or parameter that promote trade in the country and in turn raises the growth and production level in the economy. और उससे क्या होगा? जब प्रोडक्शन बढ़ती है, ग्रोथ बढ़ेगी और लोगों का लेवल ऑफ स्टैंडर्ड बेहतर हो जाएगा और इकोनॉमी ग्रो करेगी. और एक और जो फैक्टर हमने बात की, दैट वाज द रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट. सो गवर्नमेंट शुड इनकरेज और इंट्रोड्यूस पॉलिसीज टू इंक्रीज और इनकरेज रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट इन द इकोनॉमी. जब रिसर्च होगी, डेवलपमेंट होगी, तो रिसर्च से इनोवेशन आती है, नए आइडियाज़ जनरेट होते हैं. सो यू कैन इनोवेट योर प्रोडक्ट्स. सो दिस विल हेल्प to understand the technology which is available in the world, right, in the advanced countries. So you can use those technologies, you can use innovation, and जब innovation करते हैं, research advanced technology को use करते हैं, तो of course productivity बढ़ जाती है. So government can encourage the development of new technologies through research grant they can provide research grant, tax breaks, and the patent system, right? So in case of Pakistan, government of Pakistan is trying to promote research and development activities, and in recent years they have spent a lot of money on sending people to the other countries so that they can come and research and make innovation in the country and help to promote growth in the economy. So this was, and the last factor that government need to concentrate to promote growth in the economy is the population growth. So population growth is one of the important factors that can contribute in a positive way as well as in a negative way in the growth of an economy. Now how population can contribute in a positive way? अगर किसी मुल्क की आबादी बढ़ रही है, population ज़्यादा हो रही है, तो they can use लेबर इंटेंसिव टेक्निक्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, ऐसे जो टेक्निक्स आप प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस में अडाप्ट करते हैं जहाँ पे ज़्यादा लेबर यूज़ कर सकें और लेस कैपिटल यूज़ कर सकें ताकि चीज़ें ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा प्रोड्यूस हों. दिस इज़ वन ऑफ द पॉजिटिव फैक्टर और पॉजिटिव वे हाउ द पॉपुलेशन कैन हेल्प to promote productivity and economic growth in the economy. But of course it has negative impact on the economy also. If population is growing every year and growth is not taking place, right, so that basically help to decrease the per capita income. जब आपकी per capita income कम होगी तो उससे क्या होगा, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग लोगों का कम हो जाएगा. तो पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ हैज़ बोथ पॉजिटिव एंड नेगेटिव इफेक्ट. अभी आप चाइना के एग्जांपल आपको देते हैं, चाइना की बात करते हैं. चाइना इज़ द नंबर 1 country as far as population is concerned, but if you look at the growth of the China, it is in double figure, right? So they are utilizing that labor to promote or to produce goods and services, right, instead of using high advanced technology, right? So similarly population growth can be a positive factor in helping or promoting growth in the economy if it is properly utilized. But if it is not properly utilized, and in most of the cases in the developing countries, if the average household size is 7 people, उन 7 लोगों में से 1 या 2 लोग काम कर रहे हैं, 5 लोग उन पे डिपेंडेंट हैं, कुछ भी काम नहीं कर रहे. They are just sitting in their homes and just depending on their head of the household or people who are earning money, right? So this is not the way to utilize the growth in population or the people who are sitting in home. तो हमें कोशिश करनी चाहिए जितने मैक्सिमम लोग हैं काम करें ताकि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा चीज़ें पैदा करें, प्रोड्यूस हों और ग्रोथ बढ़े इकोनॉमी की. जब ग्रोथ बढ़ेगी तो पर कैपिटा इनकम बढ़ेगी और स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग बेहतर हो जाएगा. So this is all about today's lecture. Now I will try to revise or recapture the concept which we have learned in this production and economic growth के chapter में हमने जो पढ़ा, तो उसको हम recap करेंगे चंद मिनट्स के लिए और then we'll end up with this lecture. So we started, we said that economic prosperity as measured by GDP per person varies substantially around the world. तो जो वन ऑफ द इम्पॉर्टेंट पैरामीटर है जिसकी बेस पे हम अक्रॉस द कंट्रीज मेजर करते हैं इकोनॉमिक प्रोग्रेस को, प्रॉस्पेरिटीज़ को, दैट इज़ जीडीपी पर कैपिटा, और दैट वेरीज significantly among different countries in the world. and factors जो हैं उनकी हमने ऑलरेडी डिटेल में बात कर ली है. The average income of the world richest country is more than the average poorest country. तो ऐसे ममालिक जो कि richest हैं, developed हैं, उनकी average income ज़्यादा होती है as compared to the countries who are poor. The standard of living in the economy depends on the economy ability to produce goods and services. How much goods and services are produced in the economy? What is the production level? What is the growth in the economy? तो standard of living depend करता है कि उस ममालिक में कितनी अशिया प्रोड्यूस हो रही है, कितनी प्रोडक्शन बढ़ रही है, कितनी कैपेसिटी है, कितनी ग्रोथ है, तो उस पर डिपेंड करता है. अगर ज़्यादा होगी प्रोडक्शन, ग्रोथ ज़्यादा होगी, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग बेहतर होगा. अगर प्रोडक्शन कम होगी, स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग कम होगा, बेहतर नहीं होगा. Productivity depends on, as we said, that on 4 factors of production, that is physical capital, human capital, natural resources, and technological knowledge, right? So all these factors of production are used in the production process to produce goods and services in the economy. तो जितने ज़्यादा होंगे ये factors of production, उतनी चीज़ें ज़्यादा प्रोड्यूस होंगी और ज़्यादा ग्रोथ होगी और स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग उतना बेहतर होगा. लेकिन हमने इनकी डिटेल डिफरेंट फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, हाउ मच ईच ऑफ फैक्टर ऑफ प्रोडक्शन इज बीइंग यूज्ड इन द प्रोडक्शन प्रोसेस, तो डिटेल में हमने ऑलरेडी बात कर ली है. Now government policies, अभी recently अभी हमने बात की कि the government can introduce different policies to promote growth and raise standard of living of the people in the economy. उनमें हमने बात की government can promote through encouraging investment and saving in the economy. They can promote growth or raise growth by adopting free trade policies and by increasing human capital or spending more on investment, spending more or investing more in education. They can raise expenditure in education, and they can control population or use properly the population of the country to produce goods and services. So government can adopt number of policies that we have discussed in today's lecture and adopt those policies to raise productivity and growth in turn, and then it will help to increase the standard of living of the people in the economy. So this is all about today's lecture. तो यहाँ पे आज का लेक्चर ख़त्म करते हैं स्टूडेंट्स. Till the next time we meet, God bless you. Allah Hafiz.